everyone in shock as her son walked to the Millionaire CEO in a restaurant and called him Daddy. The restaurant fell silent as silverware halted mid-air. Hushed conversations died instantly. All eyes turned to watch the small boy with copper curls weave confidently between white-clothed tables toward the most powerful man in the room. Daddy. The child's voice rang clear and bright through the elegant space. It's you, the man from Mommy's treasure box. Have you ever experienced a single moment when your carefully constructed world shattered completely? When a secret you've protected for years suddenly explodes in the most public way possible? For Olivia Reed, that moment arrived without warning as her 4-year-old son Leo slipped from her, grasped and raced across the Meridian's polished floor toward tech billionaire Gabriel Davenport. Family, like, share, and subscribe to our channel so you won't miss a single of these touching stories I share to you every day. Leo, come back here. Olivia's desperate whisper carried farther than intended as she rose from her chair, investor portfolios forgotten. Her heart pounded so violently she felt lightheaded. This couldn't be happening. Not here. Not now. Gabriel Davenport looked up from his business dinner, confusion flickering across his face as the small boy reached his table. His expression shifted from polite puzzlement to stunned recognition as his eyes, the exact same shade of hazel as the child's, moved from Leo to where Olivia stood frozen between tables. You look just like your picture, Leo continued, unaware of the tension electrifying the air around him. Mommy keeps it in her special box with the letters she never mails. The crystal wine glass in Gabriel's hand trembled slightly before he set it down with deliberate care. Olivia? Her name escaped him like a prayer, barely audible yet somehow filling the entire restaurant. Conversations around them resumed in urgent whispers. Phones discreetly captured the moment. By tomorrow, this scene would dominate social media. Tech mogul Gabriel Davenport confronted by a child claiming to be his son, a child he clearly knew nothing about. Olivia moved forward on unsteady legs, her carefully applied lipstick now bitten away, her prepared investor pitch forgotten. The sea of elegant dresses and tailored suits blurred around her as she approached. The table where her past and present collided catastrophically. I'm so sorry, she managed, reaching for Leo's hand. He's just confused. We should go. But Gabriel's gaze had locked onto Leo's face, cataloging the features with growing realization, the shape of his nose, the set of his jaw, the distinctive arch of his eyebrows. Features that mirrored his own. Is he? Gabriel's voice dropped to a whisper, the question hanging incomplete between them. Is this my son? If you've ever wondered how a single question can change everything, stay with me. This story of secrets, missed chances, and unexpected redemption might just change how you think about forgiveness and second chances. Hit like and subscribe if you believe everyone deserves the opportunity to make things right, even after years of separation. 3 hours earlier, Olivia had stood before her bathroom mirror, applying a final touch of lipstick with trembling hands. Her reflection showed a woman on the edge of something important, auburn hair swept into a professional. Updo, emerald dress striking against her fair skin, eyes bright with equal parts hope and anxiety. This dinner meeting wasn't just another networking event. After 4 years of working from her dining room table while raising Leo, alone, Olivia's architectural firm finally had a shot at real investment. Kensington Partners had reviewed her sustainable hoe using designs and expressed interest. Tonight could change everything for her and Leo. Mama, do I look handsome? Leo appeared in the doorway, proudly displaying his little navy blazer and neatly combed copper curls. Despite her nerves, Olivia's heart melted at the sight. The handsomest, she confirmed, kneeling to straighten his collar. His hazel eyes, so achingly familiar, sparkled with excitement. Remember our restaurant rules? Sit nice, use my quiet voice, and no wandering, he recited solemnly, counting each rule on small fingers. And if I'm super good, maybe chocolate dessert? Maybe, she laughed, pressing a kiss to his forehead. Now let's not keep Mrs. Harlow waiting. Their elderly neighbor had agreed to accompany them as extra support, a kindly presence to help entertain Leo while Olivia focused on her presentation. She'd considered leaving him home with a sitter, but after a month of recurrent ear infections, she couldn't bear to be separated if he needed her. You look lovely, dear, Mrs. Harlow commented as they gathered their things. Those investors won't know what hit them. Olivia smiled gratefully, though anxiety fluttered beneath her ribs. Thank you for coming with us. I wouldn't normally bring Leo to something like this, but… Nonsense. Mrs. Harlow waved away her concerns. The boy deserves a nice evening out after being cooped up sick. Besides, what kind of monster wouldn't be charmed by that face? Olivia hadn't planned on the Meridian for her investor meeting. The upscale restaurant was far beyond her budget, but Walter Kensington had insisted. "My treat," he'd said. "Best filet in town." What she couldn't have known was that the Meridian was also a favored business dinner location for Gabriel Davenport, whose company headquarters towered just 3 blocks away. In a city of millions, their paths had never crossed in 4 years. Tonight, fate had other plans. As they entered the restaurant's elegant foyer, Olivia's grip tightened on Leo's hand. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light over cream walls and mahogany accents. A pianist played softly in the corner. The maitre d' greeted them with practiced warmth. "Reed, party of 3, Olivia said. "We're meeting Mr. Kensington." "Of course, Miss Reed. Mr. Kensington has already arrived. Please follow me." As they weaved through the dining room, Olivia remained blissfully unaware of Gabriel seated in the far corner with his executive team. She focused instead on Walter Kensington, silver-haired, impeccably dressed, rising to greet her with evaluation in his eyes. "Miss Reed, finally we meet in person." His handshake was firm, his smile not quite reaching his eyes. "And who do we have here?" "This is my son, Leo," Olivia introduced him, "and our neighbor, Mrs. Harlow." Leo extended his small hand, just as Olivia had taught him. "Pleased to meet you, sir." Kensington's eyebrows rose slightly. "Quite the little gentleman. I wasn't aware children would be joining us." The slight disapproval in his tone made Olivia's stomach tighten. "I apologize for not mentioning it. Leo's been recovering from an illness, and I preferred to keep him with me tonight." "No matter," Kensington gestured dismissively. "We're here to discuss your rather unusual approach to affordable housing, not family arrangements." The comment stung, but Olivia maintained her professional smile as they settled at the table. Mrs. Harlow immediately engaged Leo with crayons and paper sheet, thoughtfully brought along, allowing Olivia to open her portfolio. As you can see from these preliminary designs, the modular approach allows for significant cost reduction while maintaining aesthetic appeal and environmental sustainability. Kensington nodded, examining her drawings with a critical eye. 2 colleagues joined them, introducing themselves as partners in the investment firm. Questions followed, pointed, challenging, occasionally condescending. Olivia answered each with calm confidence, even as doubt crept into her thoughts. These men didn't see her vision. They saw numbers, return rates, market viability, not the families who deserved beautiful, affordable homes, not the communities that could transform with thoughtful design. Still, she needed their investment, so she persisted, adjusting her pitch to emphasize profit potential. Meanwhile, across the restaurant, Gabriel Davenport concluded a successful negotiation. At 36, he commanded attention without effort. Dark hair now threaded with distinguished silver at the temples, lean frame, perfectly suited in charcoal gray, presence radiating the quiet confidence of a man who had built an empire from nothing. "Excellent work, everyone," he told his team. "I think we've earned a celebration. Another round?" As champagne was ordered, Gabriel allowed himself a rare moment of satisfaction. Prism Innovations had just secured a partnership that would expand their sustainable technology initiatives globally. The board would be pleased. Shareholders would see increased value. Everything was proceeding exactly as planned. Yet beneath the professional triumph, an emptiness lingered, one he'd grown accustomed to but never comfortable with. Success tasted hollow when experienced alone. Back at Olivia's table, Leo grew restless despite Mrs. Harlow's efforts. The crayons had lost their appeal, and the adult conversation droned on endlessly. His curious eyes wandered the restaurant, observing the elegant patrons, the busy servers, the flickering candles. And then he saw him. Across the room sat the man from his mother's secret box, the same face that smiled from photographs hidden on the top shelf of her closet, the man she sometimes looked at when she thought Leo was asleep, her fingers tracing the image with sad eyes. His daddy. Leo had always wondered about his father. Unlike other children with 2 parents or clear explanations of their absence, his questions about Daddy were met with vague stories about an important man doing important work far away. Sometimes, when he pressed, his mother would show him videos of a tall man talking about computers and helping communities. "That's your father," she'd say softly. "He builds technology that helps people around the world." But she never explained why he never visited, never called, never seemed to know about Leo at all. In his 4-year-old mind, seeing his father now could only mean one thing. He had finally come back for them. Excitement bubbled through Leo's small body, while the adults remained absorbed in their business discussion, and Mrs. Harlow, momentarily distracted by a waiter's question, he saw his chance. He slipped from his chair and darted between tables with a single-minded determination only children possess. And so it happened, the moment that would change everything, when Leo reached Gabriel's table and uttered the word that froze time. "Daddy." The private dining room Gabriel had secured felt suffocating despite its generous proportions. Leo was happily occupied with chocolate cake at a corner table where Mrs. Harlow gently supervised, while Olivia sat rigidly across from Gabriel, her hands wrapped around a teacup she couldn't bring herself to drink. 4 years, Gabriel said finally, breaking the heavy silence. "He's 4 years old." 4.5, Olivia corrected automatically, then winced at how petty it sounded. Gabriel's penetrating gaze never left her face. "Which means you were pregnant when you left?" "Yes." "And you didn't think I deserved to know I had a son?" The careful control in his voice barely contained the hurt beneath. Olivia set down her cup, the china making a sharp sound against the saucer. "You made your priorities very clear, Gabriel. Your company was expanding globally. You were working 20-hour days, canceling every plan we made. The last time I saw you, you told me, and I quote, 'I can't do this right now, Liv. There's too much at stake.' I meant the argument, not our entire relationship." Gabriel ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident in every line of his body. "I came back to our apartment the next day with flowers, an apology, and you were gone. No note, no forwarding address, nothing. I hired investigators, Olivia. I filed a missing person report. I left a letter with your assistant," she said, surprise coloring her voice. Gabriel's expression darkened. "Miranda? She never gave me any letter. She promised she'd—" Olivia stopped, a cold realization washing over her. Miranda, who had made her disdain for Olivia clear from day one. Miranda, who had always believed Gabriel needed someone from his own social circle, not a scholarship student with reams of building sustainable housing. "She told me you received it," Olivia said quietly, "that you read it and said it was for the best." Gabriel's face went still. "Miranda was dismissed 6 months after you disappeared. Turns out she was filtering more than just my personal correspondence." Silence settled between them as they absorbed this revelation, a simple betrayal that had altered the course of 3 lives. "The letter," Gabriel said finally. "What did it say?" Olivia looked away. "That I couldn't be second place in your life anymore. That I was leaving to start fresh. That she hesitated. "That I would always love you, but I needed to find someone who would put me first." "And the pregnancy? Was that in your letter?" "No," she admitted, shame coloring her cheeks. "I found out a week after I left. I tried calling your private line twice, but it had been disconnected. I changed all my numbers after a security breach," he said, the pieces falling into place. "Olivia, if I had known, would it have made a difference?" she challenged. "You were building an empire, Gabriel. 18-hour days, international flights every week. Would you really have given that up for 3 a.m. feedings and diaper changes?" Before he could answer, Leo's laughter rang out from the corner, drawing both their gazes. He was showing Mrs. Harlow how his spoon could balance on his nose, chocolate smeared across his cheek. "He has your laugh," Gabriel said softly, "and your nose. But those eyes are yours," Olivia finished, along with his curiosity and his stubbornness. Gabriel's smile was bittersweet. "Does he know anything about me?" "More than you might think," she admitted. "I couldn't bring myself to erase you completely. I kept photos, newspaper clippings about your company's success. Sometimes when he asks about his father, I tell him stories, that you're brilliant and kind, that you're building technology to help people." "The treasure box he mentioned?" Olivia nodded. "It has the photographs, some letters I wrote but never sent, a few mementos from our time together. But you never tried to contact me again," Gabriel said, his voice tight, "even after he was born. By then, your face was on the cover of business magazines. You'd become this legendary tech visionary, climbing higher every year. What was I supposed to do? Show up at your corporate headquarters with a baby and disrupt the life you clearly wanted? You didn't give me the chance to choose," Gabriel said, leaning forward intently. "You decided for both of us." The accusation hung in the air between them, weighted with years of consequence. Life can change in an instant. A chance encounter, a child's innocent words, and suddenly years of separation and misunderstanding come crashing down. If this story resonates with you, like and subscribe to hear more about families finding their way back together through unexpected circumstances. Sometimes the truth we fear most is exactly what we need to hear. "Mama, I'm sleepy." Leo's voice broke the tension as he appeared at Olivia's elbow, rubbing his eyes. Mrs. Harlow followed close behind, apology written on her kind face. "I'm sorry, dear. He insisted on coming to you." "It's all right," Olivia assured her, gathering Leo onto her lap. "It's past his bedtime anyway." Gabriel watched them with undisguised longing. Would it be all right if I helped somehow? Called you a car, perhaps?" The awkwardness of his offer, this man who commanded a multi-billion-dollar enterprise, reduced to hesitant uncertainty by his own child, made Olivia's heart twist. "Actually," she said before she could reconsider, "we live just a few blocks away. If you'd like, you could walk with us. It would give you a few more minutes with him." The hope that illuminated Gabriel's face was answer enough. The night air was cool against Olivia's heated skin as they walked, Leo dozing against her shoulder. Gabriel had insisted on carrying her portfolio case and briefcase, leaving her arms free for their son. Mrs. Harlow had tactfully taken a separate cab home, sensing the need for privacy. "What happened with your investors?" Gabriel asked, breaking the companionable silence that had settled between them. Olivia winced. "I'm not sure. After Leo's announcement, Mr. Kensington suggested we reschedule. I think the spectacle was a bit much for them." "Walter Kensington, of Kensington Partners? You know him?" Gabriel's laugh was short. "He tried to acquire a controlling interest in my company during our first expansion. Not exactly a man I'd trust with something you care about." Olivia sighed. "At this point, my options are limited. Most investors aren't interested in small architectural firms focused on affordable, sustainable housing." Gabriel was quiet for a moment, thoughtful. "What if I could help? Not as—" he gestured vaguely between them, "whatever we are to each, other now, but as someone who believes in sustainable innovation. Gabriel, I don't want charity." "It's not charity to invest in good ideas, Olivia. It's business. From what I glimpsed in your portfolio, your designs are revolutionary. The modular approach to low-income housing with integrated green spaces? That's exactly the kind of forward thinking we need." They had reached her building, a converted warehouse with soaring windows and exposed brick. Olivia hesitated at the entrance, studying Gabriel's face in the streetlight. "This is us," she said softly. Gabriel nodded, reluctantly handing back her bags. "Olivia, there's so much more to say, so much to figure out." "I know. I want to be part of his life," he said, his gaze moving to the sleeping child in her arms. "If you'll let me." The vulnerability in his voice, so at odds with the confident CEO of the world, reminded her of the man she'd fallen in love with years ago, before the company, before the ambition had consumed him. "We can talk tomorrow," she offered. "I'll make coffee. Leo has preschool until noon. I'll clear my schedule," Gabriel promised immediately. Then, more hesitantly, would it be inappropriate to ask if I could kiss him good night?" Olivia's throat tightened with unexpected emotion. "Of course not." Gabriel stepped closer, gently brushing a curl from Leo's forehead before pressing a feather-light kiss to his temple. The tenderness of the gesture brought tears to Olivia's eyes. "He's perfect," Gabriel whispered, his voice rough with emotion. "Thank you for that, at least." Olivia could only nod, not trusting herself to speak. "Tomorrow, then," Gabriel said, reluctantly stepping back. 10 o'clock? 10 o'clock, she confirmed. 5 years earlier, Olivia Reed had been a different woman entirely. At 24, she'd been finishing her master's in sustainable architecture, passionate about changing urban landscapes with eco-friendly, affordable designs. Her scholarship barely covered essentials, so she'd taken a part-time job at a downtown coffee shop near the university. That's where she first saw him. Gabriel Davenport recently returned to the city to launch his tech startup. Not yet the billionaire CEO, but already magnetic. He came in every morning at precisely 7:15, ordered the same black coffee, and worked intensely on his laptop until 9. "You're wearing out that table," she'd finally commented one morning, refilling his cup unasked. 3 hours every day this week. He'd looked up, surprised by her directness. "Am I that predictable?" Like clockwork, she'd confirmed with a smile. "Though you tip well enough that we don't mind. I'm working on something important, he'd explained, then hesitated before turning his laptop toward her. A platform that connects sustainable technology with communities that need it most. Olivia had studied the screen, genuinely interested. Like matching solar companies with rural villages? Exactly. Gabriel had seemed pleased by her quick understanding. Technology exists to solve these problems, but distribution and implementation are fragmented. I'm building a solution. Noble mission for a coffee shop squatter, she'd teased. His laugh had surprised both of them, rich and unguarded. I have an office, just prefer the energy here. I'm Gabriel, by the way. Olivia. And just so you know, we close early on Fridays. Good to know, he'd replied, holding her gaze a moment longer than necessary. I'll adjust my squatting schedule accordingly. 3 days later, he'd asked her to dinner. 2 weeks after that, they were inseparable. In those early days, they'd been perfectly balanced, his pragmatic business sense complementing her idealistic creativity. They'd spend hours talking about changing the world, sketching visions on coffee shop napkins. Gabriel understood her passion for sustainable housing in a way no one else had. She appreciated his drive to connect resources with needs. We make a good team, he'd told her one night, 6 months into their relationship, as they lay tangled together in his modest apartment. You see the human element I sometimes miss. I see the practical paths to your visionary ideas. Is that your romantic way of saying we should move in together? Olivia had asked, propping herself up on one elbow. Gabriel had smiled, tracing her cheek with gentle fingers. It's my way of saying I love you, Liv. The moving in together is just logistics. For almost 2 years, they'd flourished. Olivia finished her degree with honors. Gabriel's company, Prism Innovations, secured its first major funding. They moved into a larger apartment, adopted a cat, talked abstractly about marriage and children someday when things settled down. But things never settled. Prism grew exponentially, demanding more of Gabriel's time, attention, and energy. 18-hour workdays became normal. Weekends disappeared into emergency meetings and investment pitches. Olivia supported him initially, understanding the critical growth phase of his company. It's temporary, he'd assure her, kissing her goodbye at 5 a.m. Once we secure this round of funding, things will calm down. But each achievement only led to greater demands. As Gabriel pursued increasingly ambitious goals, Olivia found herself alone more often. Their relationship reduced to brief interactions between his meetings and her deadlines. The breaking point came gradually, then suddenly. Olivia had been offered a position with a prestigious architectural firm known for sustainable urban development, her dream opportunity. The celebration dinner she planned was interrupted 3 times by Gabriel's calls with investors. When he finally suggested cutting the evening short because of an early meeting, something in Olivia snapped. Do you even want to be here, Gabriel? She'd asked, hurt bleeding into anger. Because it seems like your mind is always somewhere else these days. That's not fair, he'd responded defensively. You know how crucial this phase is for Prism. We're expanding globally now. The stakes are enormous. And what about the stakes for us? Olivia had countered. When was the last time we had a conversation that didn't revolve around your company? When did we stop being partners and become 2 people who occasionally occupy the same space? The argument had escalated, years of unspoken frustrations pouring out from both sides. Gabriel accused her of not understanding the pressures he faced. Olivia accused him of forgetting what mattered beyond business success. I can't do this right now, Liv, he'd finally said, rubbing his temples. There's too much at stake. Those words, intended to pause an argument until cooler heads prevailed, became the breaking point Olivia couldn't move past. The next day, while Gabriel was at work, she packed her essentials and left. Her parting letter, entrusted to Miranda, never reached its intended recipient. A week later, in a small hotel room paid for with her meager savings, Olivia stared at the positive pregnancy test with equal parts terror and wonder. 2 calls to Gabriel's private line went unanswered. When she finally worked up the courage to contact his office directly, Miranda informed her coolly that Mr. Davenport has made his position clear and would prefer no further contact. Devastated and believing Gabriel had rejected both her and the possibility of reconciliation, Olivia made the hardest decision of her life, to raise their child alone, away from a father who had chosen ambition over family. What she couldn't have known was that Gabriel had returned to their apartment the very evening after their fight, flowers in hand and apology prepared, only to find her gone. Or that in the weeks that followed, while Olivia believed he had dismissed her letter without response, Gabriel had been frantically searching for her, hiring private investigators and filing missing person reports. By the time Miranda's deception was discovered and she was dismissed, Olivia had relocated to another part of the city, changed her phone number, and begun building a new life centered around her pregnancy and fledgling freelance design work. Gabriel's searches yielded nothing. Eventually, heartbroken, and assuming Olivia had simply wanted a complete break, he had poured himself, even more completely, into his work, the only area of his life where he still felt some control. For 4 years, they had lived separate lives in the same city, connected only by a child one didn't know existed, and the other raised with carefully edited stories of his absent father. Until tonight, when fate and a curious 4-year-old shattered the barriers between past and present. Gabriel arrived at precisely 10 the next morning, carrying a small, carefully wrapped package and, looking both powerful and uncertain in casual clothes that probably cost more than her monthly rent. His hesitation at her threshold spoke volumes. "Come in," she said, stepping aside. "Leo's room is down the hall if you'd like to see it. He's covered the walls with drawings of robots and spaceships." "He likes robots?" Gabriel asked, following her inside, his gaze taking in the warm, modest apartment with evident curiosity. "Loves them, builds them out of anything he can find. Cardboard boxes, my kitchen utensils, once even my good drafting rulers." Gabriel smiled. "I built my first circuit board when I was 5. My mother was horrified when I disassembled our telephone to understand how it worked." "That explains a lot," Olivia said, leading him toward the kitchen. "Coffee?" "Please." She busied herself with the French press, aware of Gabriel's eyes following her movements. The silence between them felt charged with unspoken words. "Olivia," he began finally, setting the small package on the counter. "Before we discuss anything else, I need to apologize." She turned, surprised. "For what?" "For giving you reason to believe I wouldn't want our child. For being so consumed with Prism that you felt invisible. That was never my intention, but intentions don't matter if the result is someone you love feeling abandoned." The sincerity in his voice caught her off guard. This wasn't the defensive reaction she'd expected, the Gabriel she remembered would have built a logical case for his actions, explained the necessity of his choices. "You've changed," she observed, pouring the coffee into mugs. "Having everything you thought you wanted and realizing it's hollow without someone to share it with changes a person," he replied simply. "Losing you was the wake-up call I needed, though it took longer than it should have to recognize that." "And now?" she asked, sliding his coffee across the counter. "What do you want now, Gabriel?" "To know my son," he answered without hesitation. "To be the father he deserves, however that looks. And," he paused, meeting her eyes, "to understand if there's any part of what we had that could be rebuilt. Not immediately, not without work, but someday." Olivia's hands tightened around her mug. "We're different people now." "Yes," he agreed. "But different doesn't mean incompatible. You've created a successful firm while raising our child alone. That speaks to a strength and determination I always admired in you. And I've learned that empire building means nothing if you're ruling alone." Before she could respond, he slid the small package toward her. "This is for Leo. Though perhaps you should approve it first. Sometimes the gifts we treasure most are the ones that arrive unexpectedly after years of waiting. If you've ever experienced a moment of reconnection that changed everything, hit like and share your thoughts in the comments. Your story might give someone else the courage to reach out to a loved one they've lost touch with." Olivia unwrapped the package carefully, revealing a small, handcrafted wooden robot. It wasn't a commercial toy, but something clearly custom-made, with movable joints and a tiny control panel with working lights. "It's beautiful," she said, turning it in her hands. "Did you make this?" Gabriel nodded. "Last night. I have a workshop at home. It helps me think. I stayed up most of the night working on it, wanting to get it right." The image of Gabriel, who once couldn't tear himself away from spreadsheets long enough for dinner, spending hours crafting a toy for the son he'd just discovered, sent an unexpected warmth through her chest. "He'll love it," she said softly. "There's something else," Gabriel said, reaching into his pocket. He withdrew a folded document and placed it on the counter. "I had my lawyers draw this up this morning. It's a proposed custody and support agreement. Very preliminary, very flexible. I don't expect you to sign anything now, or ever if the terms don't feel right. But I wanted you to know I'm serious about being in Leo's life legally, financially, and emotionally." Olivia stared at the document, emotions warring within her. "This is very thorough for less than 24 hours. I've always been efficient." he said with a small smile. But please, take all the time you need to review it with your own attorney. I've included provisions for Leo's education, healthcare, housing security for both of you, and structured visitation that can evolve as he becomes comfortable with me. And if I were to accept your help with my firm? She asked cautiously. That's entirely separate, Gabriel insisted. My legal team has drawn up a standard venture capital agreement for your review. Your work stands on its own merits, Olivia. That has nothing to do with Leo or our past. She studied him, trying to reconcile this thoughtful, measured man with the driven entrepreneur whose ambition had once consumed everything in its path. What changed you, Gabriel? Really? He considered her question carefully. About 2 years after you left, I achieved everything I thought I wanted. Prism went public. The valuation exceeded even our most optimistic projections, and I became the success story everyone expected. That night, I opened a bottle of ridiculously expensive champagne in my empty penthouse and realized I had no one to share it with. No one who cared about Gabriel the person rather than Davenport the CEO. He took a sip of his coffee before continuing. I started therapy the next week, spent a lot of time understanding why I'd been willing to sacrifice what mattered most for achievements that felt hollow once attained. It's been a process, learning to balance ambition with the things that make life meaningful. And you think you've found that balance now? She asked skeptically. I'm working on it, he admitted. I delegate more. I've built systems that don't require my constant attention. I take actual weekends off. The company hasn't collapsed yet. His lips quirked in a self-deprecating smile. I'm still learning, but I'm committed to doing better. Olivia felt the last of her defensive walls beginning to crumble. She'd spent 4 years constructing a narrative about Gabriel, the workaholic who would have resented the intrusion of a child, who would have seen fatherhood as an inconvenience to his ambitions. Seeing him now, earnest and vulnerable in her kitchen, forced her to confront the possibility that she'd been wrong. We should take this slowly, she said finally, for Leo's sake. He's excited about meeting his daddy from the pictures, but he doesn't understand what that really means yet. I agree completely, Gabriel said, relief evident in his voice. We follow his lead, introduce changes gradually. I don't want to disrupt the beautiful life you've built for him. And us? She asked, the question slipping out before she could reconsider. Gabriel's gaze softened. That's entirely up to you, Olivia. I won't pretend I don't still have feelings for you. Seeing you last night brought everything rushing back. But I understand that trust takes time to rebuild, if it can be rebuilt at all. Friends first, she suggested. Keo parents learning to work together. The rest, we'll see. I'd like that, he said, and the genuine smile that lit his face reminded her of the Gabriel she'd fallen in love with, before the pressure and ambition had shadowed his eyes. The sound of her phone chiming broke the moment. That's preschool, she said, checking the message. Leo has a fever. I need to pick him up. May I come with you? Gabriel asked, then quickly added, or is that too much too soon? Olivia considered him thoughtfully. Actually, I think it might be good. A quiet introduction rather than another public scene. The gratitude in his eyes was answer enough. The preschool was a bright, cheerful building with a playground visible through large windows. Gabriel seemed almost nervous as they approached the entrance, adjusting his sweater and running a hand through his hair. Do I look approachable? He asked suddenly. I've been told my boardroom face can be intimidating. Olivia couldn't help but smile at the question. You look fine. Just be yourself, the real yourself, not CEO yourself. Right, he nodded seriously. No hostile takeovers of the finger-painting station. His attempt at humor surprised a laugh out of her. This glimpse of the old Gabriel, the one who could always make her laugh even when she was determined to stay angry, sent a pang of nostalgia through her chest. Inside, they were directed to the nurse's office, where Leo sat on a small cot, his cheeks flushed with fever but his eyes brightening instantly when he spotted them. Mama and Daddy from the restaurant, he exclaimed, sliding off the cot and hurrying toward them despite the teacher's gentle admonishment to rest. Gabriel knelt down, bringing himself to Leo's level. Hello, Leo. I hear you're not feeling well today. Leo nodded solemnly. My ears hurt again, and I'm all hot. I'm sorry to hear that, Gabriel said, his voice softening in a way Olivia had never heard before. When I was your age, I used to get ear infections too. They're no fun at all. You did? Leo asked, his eyes wide with the discovery of this connection. Absolutely. My mother used to make me special smoothies with frozen berries because the Cold helped my throat feel better when it hurt from all the medicine. Can we make smoothies, Mama? Leo turned to Olivia hopefully. That sounds like a good idea, she agreed, signing the release forms the teacher offered. Let's get you home first, though. I have a surprise for you at your house, Gabriel told Leo as they prepared to leave. Something I made last night when I found out what a special boy you are. Leo's eyes lit up despite his fever. A surprise? What is it? If I told you, it wouldn't be a surprise anymore, Gabriel replied with exaggerated seriousness. But I think you'll like it very much. As they walked out together, Leo reached up and took Gabriel's hand without hesitation, his other hand firmly in Olivia's grasp. The simple action, their son naturally connecting them into a unit, felt profound in ways Olivia couldn't articulate. Gabriel's eyes met hers over Leo's head, and the wonder and gratitude she saw there mirrored her own emotions. Whatever complications lay ahead, whatever hurts needed healing, this moment felt like the beginning of something new and unexpectedly hopeful. Back at the apartment, Leo's excitement over the wooden robot temporarily overshadowed his discomfort. His eyes widened with delight as Gabriel demonstrated how the joints moved and the small lights worked. You made this? Just for me? He asked, turning the toy over in his small hands with reverent care. Just for you, Gabriel confirmed. I wanted to give you something special, like how you're special to me, Leo asked with childish directness that made both adults catch their breath. Gabriel's voice grew gentle. Yes, exactly like that. Leo studied the robot for another moment before looking up with fever-bright eyes. Are you going to stay now, with me and Mama? The question hung in the air between them, innocent yet impossibly complex. Olivia felt her heart racing as she waited for Gabriel's response. Leo, sweetie, she began, trying to manage expectations, but Gabriel raised a hand, asking silently for a chance to answer. I'm going to be in your life from now on, he told Leo carefully. I promise you that. But grown-up arrangements can be complicated. Right now, I have my home, and you and your mom have yours. The important thing is that I'll see you very often, and we'll figure everything else out as we go along. Leo considered this, his small brow furrowed in concentration. But why can't you just live here? We have a guest room. That's a conversation for another day, Olivia interjected gently. Right now, you need medicine and rest. How about we make those smoothies Gabriel mentioned, and then you can show him your room? Leo agreed reluctantly, though his eyes kept drifting back to Gabriel as if afraid he might disappear if not watched carefully. The fear wasn't entirely unfounded, Olivia realized. For all Leo's excitement at meeting his father, there must be underlying questions about why he'd been absent for so long. Those questions would come eventually, requiring careful, age-appropriate answers. For now, though, the simple joy of connection seemed enough for her son. In the kitchen, Gabriel proved surprisingly adept at navigating unfamiliar territory, finding blender, and measuring cups without needing direction. Olivia watched with quiet amazement as he and Leo worked together to create magic healing smoothies. The business-like efficiency she remembered now channeled into making their son smile. You're good with him, she observed softly, while Leo carefully arranged berries in the blender. Gabriel glanced up, a mixture of pride and sadness in his eyes. I had a lot of catching up to do. We all do, she acknowledged. This is new territory for everyone. The afternoon passed in a strange bubble of domesticity. Leo, fortified by medicine and smoothies, insisted on giving Gabriel a tour of the apartment, proudly showing off his robot collection, his bookshelf, and especially his drawings. This one's a spaceship that runs on sunshine, he explained, holding up a colorful creation. And this is a robot that helps trees grow faster. It's for helping the planet. That's brilliant, Gabriel said, examining the drawing with genuine interest. You know, at Prism we're actually working on solar technology that helps vegetation grow in difficult environments. Really? Leo's eyes widened. Just like my drawing? Very similar, Gabriel confirmed. Great minds think alike. When Leo finally succumbed to his fever and fell asleep clutching his new wooden robot, Olivia and Gabriel retreated to the living room, the silence between them filled with unspoken thoughts. He's extraordinary, Gabriel said finally. So bright, so intuitive. He gets that from you, Olivia replied, then smiled faintly. Along with his stubbornness, I prefer to call it determination, Gabriel countered with a slight smile that faded quickly. Olivia, I need to ask, has he had proper medical care for these ear infections? They can lead to complications if not treated aggressively. The question stung. though she recognized the concern behind it. Of course he has. I may not have your resources, but Leo has never gone without necessary medical care. He sees Dr. Chen every 6 weeks for monitoring. The infections are improving just slowly. I'm sorry, Gabriel said immediately. I didn't mean to imply otherwise. I just want to protect him, Olivia finished. I understand. That's what parents do. Parents, Gabriel repeated the word softly, testing its weight. I'm still getting used to that. You're doing well so far, she acknowledged. Better than I expected, honestly. What did you expect? Olivia considered the question carefully. Part of me feared you'd be angry, demand legal proceedings immediately. Another part wondered if you'd be uncomfortable, unsure how to connect with a child. The man I knew 5 years ago wasn't exactly comfortable with messy emotions or unstructured time. The man you knew 5 years ago needed to grow up, Gabriel said simply. I've had time to recognize that. Before Olivia could respond, her phone chimed with an incoming email. She glanced at it, then sat up straighter. It's from Kensington Partners. And, Gabriel asked, watching her face, they're passing on my proposal. Apparently recent events raised concerns about my personal stability and professional focus. The bitterness in her voice was impossible to disguise. In other words, being a single mother who can't control her child in a restaurant makes me a bad investment risk. Walter Kensington is an ass, Gabriel said flatly, and a hypocrite, considering his own very public divorce scandals. Maybe, but he's an ass with capital I need. Olivia set her phone down with a sigh. Back to square one. Gabriel hesitated, clearly weighing his next words carefully. My offer still stands, you know, to invest in your firm, strictly as a business proposition. I told you, I don't want charity, I know. Gabriel finished for her. And I'm not offering charity. I'm offering a business partnership with someone whose vision aligns with Prism's sustainability goals. Can you honestly say you'd make the same offer if I were just another architect you met at a conference? Olivia challenged. If you showed me the same innovative designs? Absolutely. Gabriel's gaze was steady. The difference is, I might not have looked as closely at your portfolio if we didn't have history. But now that I have seen your work, I recognize its value independent of our personal connection. Olivia still hesitated, pride warring with practicality. Look, Gabriel continued, review the investment proposal with your own lawyer. The terms are standard, possibly even less favorable than you'd get elsewhere too. Avoid any appearance of special treatment. If you don't like it, reject it. But don't punish yourself professionally just to maintain independence from me personally. His logic was sound, much as she hated to admit it. Her firm needed capital to grow, and her designs deserved the chance to become reality. I'll think about it, she conceded finally. But only if the terms make business sense. That's all I ask. Gabriel seemed to understand that pushing further would be counterproductive. He glanced at his watch. I should probably go. Let Leo rest, give you some space to process everything. Will you come back tomorrow? The question escaped before Olivia could reconsider. If you want me to, Gabriel replied, hope evident in his voice. Leo would like that, she said, then added more honestly, and it would give us more time to figure out next steps. As they walked to the door, an awkward moment arose, neither quite certain how to say goodbye. A handshake seemed too formal, a hug too intimate for their current state of cautious reconstruction. In the end, Gabriel simply said, thank you, Olivia, for today, for Leo, for being willing to try. We're just starting, she reminded him, but found herself smiling nonetheless. There's a lot to work through. One day at a time, he agreed. I'll see you tomorrow. After he left, Olivia checked on Leo, still sleeping peacefully with the wooden robot clutched to his chest. Watching him, she marveled at children's capacity for adaptation. In the space of 24 hours, his world had expanded dramatically. And he had embraced the change with open-hearted enthusiasm. If only adults could navigate life's upheavals with such straightforward acceptance. What happens when the walls we build to protect ourselves suddenly come down? When truth forces us to reconsider everything we thought we knew? If you've experienced a moment when your perspective completely shifted, share your story in the comments. And subscribe to hear more stories about the unexpected ways families find healing and connection. Over the following weeks, a tentative routine emerged. Gabriel visited Leo regularly, initially for short periods that gradually extended as their bond strengthened. He proved surprisingly adept at 4-year-old activities, building elaborate block structures, creating imaginary worlds with action figures, and reading stories with different voices for each character. To Olivia's surprise, he maintained professional boundaries regarding her firm, introducing her to legitimate investors without pressuring her to accept his own offer. "The choice has to be entirely yours," he explained. "No strings, no obligations." 6 weeks after their restaurant reunion, Olivia sat on a park bench watching Gabriel push Leo on the swings. Their son's laughter rang out with each arc higher, his earlier ear infection finally resolved and his energy fully restored. "Higher, Daddy, higher," Leo called, and Gabriel obliged carefully, his attention completely focused on ensuring the child's safety while maximizing his joy. Observing them together, Olivia could no longer deny the truth she'd been avoiding. Gabriel was a natural father, patient, attentive, fully present in a way he'd never been during their relationship. The transformation was both wonderful and painful to witness. Wonderful for Leo, painful in its reminder of what might have been if Gabriel had found this balance years earlier. "Penny for your thoughts," Gabriel said, joining her on the bench while Leo explored the sandbox nearby. "You looked miles away." "Just thinking about changes," she admitted. "How different things are from what I expected." "Good different or bad different?" "Mostly good," she said honestly. "Leo adores you. You're wonderful with him. More natural than I would have predicted." Gabriel's smile was wistful. "Children have a way of clarifying priorities. Every time I look at him, I think about the kind of world I want to build for him, the kind of example I want to set. It makes decisions simpler in some ways, and more complicated in others," Olivia added. "True," he acknowledged. "Speaking of complications, I've been considering something I wanted to discuss with you. My lease is up next month, and I've been looking at properties closer to you and Leo. There's a townhouse about 4 blocks from your apartment." "You'd move from your penthouse?" Olivia asked, surprised. "What about your view? Your private elevator? That ridiculous infinity pool you showed Leo in the photos?" Gabriel shrugged. "What good is an infinity pool when the person I most want to teach to swim lives across town? The commute to Prism would be longer, but I only go to the office 3 days a week now anyway. The rest I can work remotely." The casualness with which he suggested this significant life change took Olivia aback. "You're serious about this?" "I'm serious about being present for Leo," he confirmed. "And," he added more hesitantly, "about being available if you decide there's something worth rebuilding between us." They had carefully avoided this topic during their CO parenting negotiations, focusing solely on Leo's needs and comfort. But the underlying current had remained, surfacing in lingering glances and conversations that extended long after Leo was asleep. "Gabriel," she began, uncertain how to respond. "You don't need to say anything now," he assured her. "I just wanted you to know where I stand. These weeks with you and Leo have been the happiest I've had in years. I won't pressure you, but I won't pretend I haven't fallen in love with our family, the one we could be if you're willing to try again." Before she could respond, Leo came running up, hands cupped carefully around something. "Look what I found, a special rock with sparkles inside." The moment shifted as they both turned their attention to their son's discovery, a piece of quartz catching the sunlight. But Gabriel's words echoed in Olivia's mind throughout the afternoon, through dinner at her apartment, through the bedtime routine they now often shared. Later, after Leo was asleep and Gabriel prepared to leave, she finally found her voice. "I'm afraid," she admitted, standing in her doorway, "afraid of trusting again, of believing things can be different this time." Gabriel nodded, understanding in his eyes. "Fear makes sense given our history. I broke promises before. Words alone can't repair that. Only consistent actions over time. And if we try and it doesn't work," she pressed, "Leo is attached to you now. I won't put him through losing his father twice." "He won't lose me," Gabriel said firmly. "Whatever happens between us, I'm committed to being Leo's father for life. That's non-negotiable." Olivia studied his face, searching for the ambition that had once consumed him, the restlessness that had made him check his phone during their most intimate moments. Instead, she found steady resolve and patient hope. "The townhouse," she said finally, "the one 4 blocks away. Is it big enough for weekend visits? For Leo to have his own room there?" "Yes," Gabriel said carefully. "I made sure of that." Olivia took a deep breath. "I think that's a good next step. Being closer, creating more stability for Leo, seeing if this new balance you found is sustainable." The smile that spread across Gabriel's face was worth the risk of her cautious approval. "I won't let either of you down again," he promised. "I've learned what matters." As he turned to leave, Olivia made a split-second decision. She reached for his hand, stopping him. "I still have the letters," she said softly. "The ones I wrote but never sent after I left. If you want to understand what those years were like for me, what I was thinking and feeling, they might help." Gabriel's expression filled with tender gratitude. "I'd be honored to read them, whenever you're ready to share them." She nodded, suddenly certain of her decision. "Come to dinner tomorrow night. After Leo's asleep, we can talk. Really talk about everything we've been avoiding." "I'll be here," he promised, squeezing her hand gently before releasing it. As she watched him walk away, Olivia felt something unfurling in her chest, not forgiveness exactly, not yet, but the possibility of it. The chance to rewrite their story, not as a failed romance, but as a journey. Interrupted, now resuming with wisdom, earned through separation and loss. The following evening unfolded with surprising ease. They prepared dinner together while Leo chattered about his day at preschool, the domestic scene feeling both novel and strangely familiar. After Leo was tucked in, Olivia retrieved the wooden box from her closet and brought it to the living room where Gabriel waited. "My treasure box," she explained, setting it between them on the couch. "Leo found it once when he was 3. That's how he knew your face yesterday. From these." She opened the lid, revealing a collection of photographs, handwritten letters, and small mementos. Gabriel reached in carefully, as if handling priceless artifacts, and lifted out a photo of them from years ago. His arm around her shoulders as they stood in front of the First Prism office, both beaming with youth and possibility. "I remember this day," he said softly. "We just secured our first round of funding. You brought champagne in paper cups because we couldn't afford real glasses. And we danced in that empty office with no furniture," Olivia added, the memory washing over her. "You promised we'd change the world together." Gabriel set the photo down gently. "I meant it then. I just lost sight of the together part somewhere along the way." Olivia nodded, withdrawing a bundle of letters tied with a simple ribbon. "These are what I wrote during my pregnancy in Leo's first year, when I was angry, when I was scared, when I wished you were there to see him smile for the first time." Gabriel accepted them with visible emotion. "Thank you for keeping these, for not erasing me completely from your life, even when you had every reason to." "I couldn't," she admitted. "Not just for Leo's sake, but for my own. What we had was real, Gabriel. It mattered, even when it hurt." They spent hours that night, poring through the contents of the box, photographs triggering memories, ticket stubs from concerts reminding them of who they'd been before success and separation had changed them. The letters remained unopened, a private reading Gabriel would do later. As midnight approached, they found themselves sitting closer, the box now, empty between them, but something new filling the space it had occupied. "I can't change the past," Gabriel said, his voice low and intent. "I can't give you back those years or erase the pain of raising our son alone. But I can promise you this, if you give us, another chance, I will spend every day making sure you never doubt your place in my priorities again." Forgiveness isn't always a single moment of release. Sometimes it's a journey of small steps, each one bringing us closer to healing. If you've experienced the power of second chances in your own life, hit that like button. Your story of reconciliation might inspire someone else to take that first difficult step toward healing. Gabriel moved into the townhouse 4 blocks from Olivia's apartment in early October. The transition created a gentle rhythm to their lives, Leo spending 3 days a week with his father, while Olivia focused on her firm, which had secured proper funding through one of Gabriel's industry connections who saw genuine merit in her innovative designs. The custody arrangement remained informal initially, built on trust rather than legal mandates. Both agreed that Leo's comfort and security took precedence over rigid schedules or territorial boundaries. To Leo's delight, his room at Gabriel's townhouse mirrored many elements from his primary bedroom. Similar bedding, the same arrangement of stuffed animals, even a matching bookshelf. "So you always feel at home," Gabriel had explained, "no matter which home you're in." One rainy November afternoon, Olivia arrived early to pick up Leo from his father's house. Gabriel answered the door with a finger to his lips. "He fell asleep during our robot building marathon," he whispered, gesturing toward the living room where Leo was curled up on the couch, surrounded by cardboard, tape, and markers. "I didn't have the heart to wake him." "I can come back later," Olivia offered, but Gabriel shook his head. "Stay. Have tea." "I was just about to make some." The kitchen in Gabriel's townhouse was warm and inviting, nothing like the sleek, barely used space in his former penthouse. Evidence of actual cooking peppered the counters, and children's artwork decorated the refrigerator. "You've gone fully domestic," Olivia observed, accepting the steaming cup he offered. "And loving every minute," he admitted without embarrassment. "Though I still can't manage that macaroni and cheese Leo insists only you can make properly." "Trade secret," she smiled. "Add a little mustard powder." Ah, the missing ingredient. Gabriel leaned against the counter, his own tea cradled between his hands. "I have something to show you, if you have a minute." Curious, Olivia followed him to his home office, a sunlit room with views of the small courtyard garden. Unlike the intimidating corporate space she remembered from years ago, this room balanced professionalism with personal touches. Leo's drawings framed alongside business awards, family photos interspersed with industry publications. Gabriel opened a drawer and removed a familiar bundle of letters, now unbound and carefully arranged in chronological order. Olivia's letters, the ones she'd written but never sent during pregnancy and Leo's first year. "You read them," she said softly. "Every word, multiple times." His voice was rough with emotion. "I wanted to thank you." "For what?" "They're mostly angry rants and sleep-deprived rambling." "For documenting everything," Gabriel clarified. "For creating this record of his first years. Without these, I would have nothing. No details about his birth, his first smile, his first steps. You gave me back pieces of our son's life I thought were lost to me forever." Olivia hadn't considered the letters that way, as a gift rather than an accusation. The perspective shift caught her off guard. "There's one in particular," Gabriel continued, selecting a letter from the middle of the stack. "May I?" At her nod, he began reading aloud. "Leo took his first steps today, exactly 9 months old. 3 wobbly steps from the coffee table to the couch where I was sitting. His face showed such determination, that focused expression so like yours when you're solving a problem. For a moment, I almost called you, almost reached for the phone to share this milestone. Then I remembered that's not an option anymore. Sometimes I wonder if I made the right choice, keeping him from you. When he accomplishes something new, when he laughs in a way that echoes your laugh, when he studies objects with that intense curiosity you always had, I question my decision. But then I remember how completely your work consumed you, how our relationship became secondary to your ambition, and I tell myself I'm protecting him from inevitable disappointment. Still, there are moments when I wish things had been different. When I wish you could see the extraordinary person our son is becoming, when I wish we could share the wonder of him together." Gabriel's voice had grown increasingly unsteady as he read. When he finished, he carefully returned the letter to its place among the others. "I've been trying to make up for lost time," he said quietly. "But reading these made me realize fully what I missed, what my choices cost us all." "We both made choices," Olivia acknowledged. "Mine weren't all right either." The admission hung between them, a shared culpability that somehow eased the burden each had carried alone. "He's still becoming that extraordinary person," Gabriel said. "And now we get to witness it together, even if differently than we might have imagined." Olivia nodded, unexpectedly moved by his perspective. "Different, but not lesser." "Exactly." Gabriel hesitated, then added, "Speaking of different but not lesser, Leo asked me something this morning that I wasn't sure how to answer." "What was that?" "He wanted to know if you and I are going to get married like his friend. Tyler's parents did after they started living in separate houses." Olivia felt heat rise to her cheeks. "What did you tell him?" "That grown-up relationships are complicated, but that we care about each other very much and both love him more than anything." "That was a good answer," she said softly. "It was truthful," Gabriel replied, his gaze steady on hers. "I do care about you, Olivia, more than I have allowed myself to acknowledge until recently." The confession hung in the air between them, neither advancing nor retreating from its implications. "I care about you too," Olivia admitted finally, "but I'm still scared of repeating old patterns." "Then we create new ones," Gabriel suggested, starting with honesty. "I want more than co-parenting with you, Olivia. I want partnership in all its forms, but only if and when you're ready." Before she could respond, they heard the patter of small feet in the hallway. Leo appeared in the doorway, hair tousled from his nap, clutching the wooden robot Gabriel had made him. "Mama, you're here early." His sleepy face brightened instantly. "Can we all have dinner together? Daddy bought ingredients for tacos." Olivia glanced at Gabriel, who merely smiled, leaving the decision entirely to her. The absence of pressure, the space to choose freely, touched her deeply. "Tacos sound perfect," she told Leo. then met Gabriel's gaze with new certainty. "I'd love to stay for dinner." It was a small step, but significant. Another piece in the bridge they were carefully constructing between past and future. As December arrived, bringing holiday decorations and school performances, their carefully separated lives began to intertwine more naturally. Family dinners happened several times a week, not just on custody transition days. Weekend outings involved all three of them, more often than not. Leo's preschool teachers began addressing notes to both parents, rather than just Olivia. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, they were becoming a family. Different from traditional models perhaps, but a family nonetheless. The Saturday before Christmas found them at the annual holiday market, Leo racing between festive stalls while his parents followed at a more measured pace, sharing a paper cup of mulled cider. "I have something for you," Gabriel said suddenly. "An early Christmas gift." "We said no gifts between us," Olivia reminded him of their agreement to focus present giving on Leo. "This is different," Gabriel assured her, reaching into his coat pocket. "Not really a gift, more of a return." He handed her a small envelope. Curious, Olivia opened it to find a folded sheet of paper, creased and slightly faded. As she unfolded it, recognition dawned, her handwriting, her words, dated 5 years earlier. "My letter," she whispered. "The one I left with Miranda." Gabriel nodded. It was in a file of handled personal matters in her desk. "The company found it during an audit after her dismissal, but by then you'd disappeared completely. I've kept it all these years." Olivia stared at the letter, emotions swirling as she reread her own desperate words. "Gabriel, I can't do this anymore, being second place in your life, watching you choose work over us time and again. I need someone who sees me, who prioritizes our relationship. I've tried to be patient, to understand the demands of building Prism, but I've reached my limit. I'm leaving to start fresh, to find the partnership I've always believed possible. Despite everything, I will always love you, but I need to love myself enough to walk away. Goodbye, Olivia." "I never saw this until months after you left," Gabriel said quietly. "By then the investigators had found no trace of you. You'd changed your number, moved apartments. I thought you wanted a complete break, and I thought you'd received it and chosen not to respond," Olivia replied. The final piece of their miscommunication falling into place. "So when I discovered the pregnancy weeks later, you assumed I wouldn't want to know," Gabriel finished. "Based on my silence after receiving this letter." "A silence that never actually happened," Olivia said, the irony of their situation striking her fully. "We lost 5 years because of one person's interference." "Not entirely," Gabriel corrected gently. "Miranda's deception created the initial break, but my workaholic tendencies, my inability to balance ambition with relationship, those drove you to write this letter in the first place. I bear responsibility for that." His willingness to acknowledge his part without defensiveness touched Olivia deeply. The man standing before her now was so different from the driven entrepreneur who had once prioritized his company above all else. More self-aware, more balanced, more capable of true partnership. "We've both grown," she acknowledged, carefully refolding the letter. "Maybe we needed that time apart to become people who could be together in a healthier way." Gabriel's eyes widened slightly at her words. "Are you saying—" "I'm saying I'm ready to explore what might be possible between us now," Olivia clarified. "Not rushing, not forgetting the past, but not letting it dictate our future either." The hope that illuminated Gabriel's face was answer enough, but before he could respond, Leo came bounding back to them, cheeks flushed with cold and excitement. "Mama, Daddy, I found the perfect tree. Come see." He tugged at their hands, pulling them toward the Christmas tree section of the market. As they followed their enthusiastic son, Gabriel's fingers tentatively intertwined with Olivia's. She didn't pull away, instead tightening her grip slightly. A small gesture of trust, of possibility, of healing beginning to take root. Life isn't always about perfect timing, but sometimes about second chances that arrive when we're finally ready to embrace them. If this story touched your heart, consider subscribing for more tales of family, forgiveness, and finding your way back to what matters most. Your engagement helps us share these stories with others who might need them. Christmas morning dawned clear and cold, sunlight glinting off fresh snow that had fallen overnight. By mutual agreement, they had decided to spend the holiday at Gabriel's townhouse, its larger living room better, accommodating the 8-foot tree Leo had insisted upon, its guest room providing comfortable space for Olivia. Leo woke them at dawn, bursting with excitement that couldn't be contained a moment longer. Still in pajamas, they gathered around the tree while Leo distributed presents. with the serious concentration of a child entrusted with an important task. "This one's for you, Mama, and this one's for you, Daddy, and this one says to Mom and Dad, and it's from me." The joint gift, a handmade picture frame containing a preschool photo of the three of them at the Thanksgiving celebration, brought tears to Olivia's eyes. The casual Mom and Dad label, the natural grouping of them as a unit, reflected how completely Leo had embraced their evolving family structure. Gabriel's gifts to Leo were thoughtfully chosen: books about robots, a junior science kit, clothes that accommodated his growing independence. Nothing excessive or extravagant, respecting Olivia's wishes that they not overwhelm him with material things. Olivia had given Gabriel a vintage blueprint of Prism's first office building, carefully preserved and professionally framed, a reminder of where they began. His gratitude was evident in the careful way he handled it, the emotion in his eyes as he traced the outlines of the space where they had once danced with paper cups of champagne. When the present opening concluded, Gabriel disappeared briefly into his study, returning with a small box that hadn't been under the tree. "One more," he said, handing it to Olivia. Not a Christmas gift exactly, more of a question. Intrigued, she opened it to find a key nestled on velvet. "It's to the front door," Gabriel explained. "I thought, that is, if you wanted. It might be convenient for you to have your own key, for Leo's sake, of course." The careful casualness of his tone couldn't disguise the significance of the gesture. Not quite moving in together, but a step toward greater integration of their lives. "For Leo's sake," Olivia repeated with a small smile, recognizing the excuse for what it was. "Of course, and maybe sometimes," Gabriel continued, encouraged by her acceptance, "on evenings when we're all tired, or the weather's bad. Or it just makes sense logistically. Maybe you might want to use the guest room instead of going back to your apartment?" Leo, overhearing this exchange, looked up from his new toys with sudden interest. "Like a sleepover? Mama could have sleepovers here?" "Something like that," Gabriel agreed, his eyes never leaving Olivia's face. "I think that could be arranged," she said softly. "For practical reasons." "Purely practical," Gabriel echoed, though his smile suggested otherwise. The remainder of the day passed in comfortable domesticity, building Leo's new toys, preparing Christmas dinner together, video calling, with Gabriel's parents who were cautiously delighted by their newly discovered grandson and the tentative reconciliation with Olivia. That evening, after Leo had finally succumbed to holiday exhaustion and fallen asleep surrounded by new treasures, Olivia and Gabriel sat before the fireplace, glasses of wine in hand, the Christmas tree lights casting colorful shadows across the room. "I've been thinking," Olivia said, after a comfortable silence, "about my apartment lease." Gabriel looked up, careful not to appear too eager. "Oh, it's up for renewal in February. I've been considering whether to extend it." "And have you decided?" His voice was deliberately neutral, though his fingers tightened slightly around his wine glass. Olivia took a deep breath. "I think it might make sense to explore alternatives. For Leo's stability, moving between two homes, keeping clothes and toys in different places, it's manageable but not ideal. What kind of alternatives did you have in mind?" Gabriel asked, setting his glass down to give her his full attention. "Maybe a trial period," she suggested. "Using that key you gave me more regularly, seeing how we function together in one household, taking things slowly, but moving in a deliberate direction. Together," Gabriel clarified, his eyes searching hers. As a family," Olivia confirmed, "though I want to maintain some independence, keep my studio space, preserve certain boundaries while we figure things out." "Absolutely," he agreed immediately. "We could convert the third bedroom into a proper workspace for you, and I'd respect whatever boundaries you need. We don't have to rush anything." His immediate accommodation of her needs, the absence of pressure to conform to traditional arrangements, reassured Olivia that this Gabriel truly was different from the one she'd left years ago. "Then yes," she said with growing certainty. "Let's try living together. For Leo's sake initially, but also for us, for the partnership we might build if given the chance." Gabriel's smile was radiant. "For all of us," he agreed, reaching for her hand across the space between them. As their fingers intertwined, Olivia felt the last of her resistance melting away. The path forward wasn't perfectly clear, wouldn't always be smooth, but the fundamental elements were in place: trust rebuilding, communication improving, priorities aligned. "Merry Christmas, Gabriel," she said softly. "Merry Christmas, Olivia," he replied, his voice warm with promise. "The first of many, I hope." 3 months later, spring sunshine streamed through the windows of what was now undeniably their home. Olivia's apartment had been sublet, her essential belongings integrated into the townhouse, her architectural studio established in the converted third bedroom. The transition hadn't been without challenges. Gabriel's occasional late work calls interrupted family dinners. Olivia's independent habits sometimes clashed with his desire for togetherness. They navigated differences in parenting styles, household management, and personal space needs. But underlying these normal adjustments was a foundation stronger than their first attempt at partnership, built on maturity, mutual respect, and the shared priority of their son's happiness. Leo thrived in the stability of their united household, his ear infections finally resolving completely under a specialist's care, his creativity blossoming in an environment where both parents encouraged his interests. At preschool graduation, he proudly introduced my mom and dad to teachers and classmates without qualification or explanation. On a warm Saturday in May, while Leo played with neighborhood friends in the courtyard garden visible from the kitchen window, Gabriel approached Olivia as she sketched designs for a new sustainable housing project. "I've been meaning to ask you something," he began, uncharacteristically hesitant. Olivia looked up from her drafting table, pencil still poised over the paper. "Do you remember what you said that night at the restaurant, when I asked if Leo was my son?" Olivia set down her pencil, giving him her full attention. "I believe I said, 'Not here,' and then 'please.'" "That's right," Gabriel nodded. "And I've been thinking about those words lately, how they could apply to another question entirely." "What question might that be?" Olivia asked, though something in his expression gave her an inkling of where this conversation was heading. Instead of answering directly, Gabriel reached into his pocket and withdrew a small velvet box. "I was going to plan something elaborate, romantic dinner, spectacular view, the works. But then I realized that's the old Gabriel's approach, making grand gestures instead of focusing on what matters." He opened the box to reveal a ring unlike any Olivia would have expected. Not a flashy diamond solitaire, but an elegant band of intertwined gold and platinum, set with small stones in a pattern that caught the light. "The stones are birthstones," Gabriel explained. "Yours, mine, and Leo's woven together, just like our lives have become." Olivia's breath caught as she recognized the thoughtfulness behind the design. "Gabriel, I'm not asking for an immediate answer," he assured her quickly. "And whatever you decide won't change my commitment to you and Leo. We can continue exactly as we are if that's what you prefer. But you are asking?" Olivia sought confirmation, her heart racing. "I am," Gabriel confirmed, dropping to one knee in a gesture both traditional and transformed by their unique journey. "Olivia Reed, would you do me the extraordinary honor of becoming my wife, not because it's expected or conventional, but because I love you more fully, more completely, more authentically than I ever knew was possible?" Olivia looked from the ring to the man before her, the man who had changed so profoundly, who had proven his commitment through consistent action rather than empty promises. The man who had become not just a father to their son, but a true partner to her. "Not here," she said softly, echoing her words from that fateful night. Gabriel's face fell slightly before he caught the teasing light in her eyes. "Not just here in the studio, I mean," Olivia clarified, reaching for his hand. "This moment deserves Leo too. He's as much a part of this decision as either of us." Understanding dawned in Gabriel's expression. "You're right. Of course you're right." Together they moved to the garden door, calling Leo in from his play. The boy came running, curious about the interruption to his Saturday fun. "Leo," Gabriel began, kneeling again to be at his son's level. "I have something important to ask your mother, and we wanted you to be part of it." Leo's eyes widened as he spotted the ring box. "Are you asking Mama to marry you, like in the movies?" "I am," Gabriel confirmed. "How would you feel about that?" Leo considered the question with endearing seriousness. "Would we still all live together?" "Yes," Olivia assured him. "Just like now, but even more official. And would I get to be in the wedding? Tyler got to hold the rings when his parents got married. You'd have the most important job of all," Gabriel promised. "If your mom says yes, that is." All eyes turned to Olivia, who looked at the two people who had become her entire world, the son she'd raised alone for 4 years, and the man who had returned to them both, transformed by loss into someone capable of true partnership. "Yes," she said simply. "Yes, to all of it." As Gabriel slipped the ring onto her finger, Leo clapped his hands with delight. "Now we're a real family." "We already were, buddy," Gabriel corrected gently, pulling both Olivia and Leo into an embrace. The ring and the wedding just help other people recognize what we already know. Holding her family close, Olivia reflected on the journey that had brought them to this moment, the miscommunications and missed connections, the years of separation, the chance encounter in a restaurant that had changed everything. What had seemed like the most mortifying moment of her life had actually been the beginning of its greatest chapter. "I love you," she whispered to Gabriel, "both the man you were and the man you've become." "And I love you," he replied, "for your strength, your forgiveness, and for giving me the greatest gift imaginable, the chance to be a father to our son and a partner to you." Leo, squirming slightly in the extended emotional moment, looked up at his parents with satisfaction. "I knew you were my daddy," he declared with a child's certainty. "Even before I saw you at the restaurant, I just knew." Perhaps he had, Olivia thought. Perhaps children recognize essential truths that adults overcomplicate with fears and doubts. Perhaps Leo had simply seen what had taken her longer to recognize, that some bonds, once formed, never truly break. They simply wait for the right moment to be rediscovered, stronger for having been tested, more precious for having been lost and found again. Sometimes the most embarrassing moments become the gateway to our greatest blessings. A child's innocent words, a chance encounter, a truth finally revealed. These can change the course of our lives in ways we never imagined. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe for more stories about family, forgiveness, and the unexpected ways love finds its way back to us. Until next time, I'm Dr. Phillips, reminding you that it's never too late for a new beginning.